hey, I'm really good because you're buying me, I'm the brand equity. If you lost your job, there should be at least 5 to 10 people that you can rely on to help you win that next project.
Welcome to Outsized Advantage. I'm Niklas Tillander, founder of Outsized. Again, my guest is Anurag Bhatt, co-founder and head of APAC for Outsized.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how you got that role, but there we are.
I gave it to myself.
Oh, great. Today, we are going to address a slightly different topic than what we've covered in the past, namely mental health for independent professionals, freelancers. There's been a little bit of discussion about that, but not, at least that I've seen, not a huge amount of coverage of that. Have you seen a lot on LinkedIn or read about mental health, particularly for freelancers?
Actually, now that you're mentioning it, I feel like there was a huge concentration probably 6 to 12 months ago, whereas everyone was talking about it.
I mean, there was a lot in COVID, just in general, I guess, about people like normal permanent employees kind of working remotely, as many freelancers have done for years, right?
Yeah.
And maybe realizing kind of that there are, certain
the challenges
and on that. But maybe to kick things off, what's different, I guess, if you're an independent professional versus a permanent employee, and what does that mean in terms of mental wellness?
Yeah, no, I think it's an important question. First of all, to be clear, I'm not a mental health practitioner or professional. So all of this is insights from our conversations, our interactions with independents over the last 7 years, and we've had thousands and thousands of conversations with independents across markets. And so I'm relatively comfortable talking on the topic. So the first thing is, I guess, why is this important for organizations to be aware of and think about? Well, anyone who's working in an organization, whatever the nature of the contract, you have a duty of care for them. And for individuals to perform, they need to be feeling good about themselves, right? And about the world around them. So there's both a business driver and a moral driver. And also, I think to engage an individual and to engage a group of individuals, you need to truly understand them and have true empathy for them, right? And understand them as human beings. And therefore, as organizations look increasingly to engage this new segment of the talent market, and to be able to empathize and therefore engage them, they need to really understand what are their lives like, what are the challenges they face on a day-to-day basis, and to your question, how they're different to the lives and worlds of a permanent employee. And it is a fundamentally different lifestyle and mindset. I try and liken it to the mindset and life of a solopreneur or an entrepreneur that started out and is just employee number one. They haven't got anyone else and they're just out on their own. They've left their job and they're starting a new venture, right? And I see all independents as entrepreneurs. And having been through our experience setting up a business, we know what it was like. And we had each other in the beginning. I know you were alone for a while. You felt alone still. No. I know you were on your own for a little bit before I came on. And I can't imagine how that must have felt. But at least then when we were together, you could bounce off and you had a support infrastructure. But I always liken that experience from an entrepreneur point of view and I see all independents as entrepreneurs essentially of their own business. Whether they choose to make it a business or not is their choice, but I see them in that frame. So the first thing to say is that if we take the work component, when you're working in a company, you have the warm arms of support infrastructure around you, right? So you have this support net, this infrastructure around you that makes you feel comfortable, looked after, and you feel like the organization is there to be your advocate and to have your back. Permanent employment usually comes with all sorts of other benefits around security and pensions and health and protection. But the biggest component it gives you is you have this immediate community. Right? So when you join a company, you're a member of that community. And if we think back to our lives of working in more traditional organizations, if you had a problem on a day-to-day basis, from a work-related, you had many people, or many divisions, or many departments to phone up and solve that problem. You had a group of people that you could rely on to help. You could build social groups there. You could build social networks within the organization. And if you were at a company long enough, it became part of your friendship. You know, a lot of those people became your friends, right? So community both inside and outside of work. If you take the life of an independent, where is their professional home? Where is their community? What is their professional infrastructure or support network? Actually, all of that gets taken away. So we talk a lot about on these podcasts around the changing nature and the increasing upsides of being independent, and that is all there. But there are also some real challenges around it, and that is the biggest part. So when we talk to independents, one of the biggest things that came out was a feeling of isolation. So not only are you going into an organization needing to justify, hey, I'm really good because you're buying me, I'm the brand equity, you're buying into me, and I've persuaded you that I'm really good. I have to perform, I have to deliver because my project's reliant on this. You're trying to do that while also with no army behind you. So if you go into a difficult meeting, you have to build a proposal, you have to answer some questions, you have to solve a problem in that organization. Without having access to that whole in-house community, you're having to solve that on your own as a sole individual, and that can be quite daunting. And then you leave that environment and you come home, and again that professional network isn't there. You're not, often depending on the organization, but you might not be fully integrated, you might not have been there long enough, maybe you haven't built friendships. So I think that over time can really build stress and anxiety for individuals, where they don't feel they have that place of like-minded people that
you're pretty exposed, I guess, often.
Yeah, exposed. That creates a feeling of being quite vulnerable. There's a lot on the line, and going in every day with that sort of pressure, I think can build over time. That's just the work-related stress. Then it's around, okay, where's my next project coming from? I'm about to finish. Am I going to get extended?
So
are they going to renew my contract?
The financial aspects.
And then you've got the financial component that comes in. And as we know, a lot of mental health challenges come from also financial stress, right? From financial wellness. When you don't feel financially secure, that can bring a lot of mental health challenges. And if we take that in a day, we know, maybe in the early days we didn't have this confidence, but now we're relatively confident that we're going to get paid at the end of the month. And permanent employees have that comfort, right? An independent doesn't know if their project's going to get renewed, if they're going to have a project in 3 months' time. Where is the next paycheck coming from, right? So if you have a bad day at the work, or if you have a bad week, or if you have a bad month, you're still going to, be confident you're going to be employed the month later. You have a bad month at a project, maybe the project gets ended or you don't get renewed. So I think that financial stress, that lack of security on the financial side creates it, the lack of community and support infrastructure. And then you're quite exposed from a protection and risk point of view. So if you think the employer is giving you often health cover, they're giving you protection, they're giving you pension, they may have some saving investment type solutions from share schemes. Often as an independent, you're not included in those. Mm-hmm. So actually you have to then think about, okay, I'm getting my rate. Am I putting enough to build a runway? Am I putting enough away to save and invest for the future? Am I putting enough for a rainy day fund? So have I covered all of these things? And that's a lot to think about while you're trying to deliver.
So how could, so there's a lot of things there, right? That could put a lot of stress into the minds of independents and if you're unlucky, ultimately cause some real issues, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, let's try to avoid that.
Yes,
right.
sure.
So what are some? If we look at those different areas like community, financial benefits, etc. What can employers do to try to mitigate those things becoming real issues? Like, how can they address those?
Yeah.
And or platforms like Outsized.
Yeah.
Maybe looking at, I don't know, first community, for example.
Yeah. So if we take a community, most organizations will have a number of independents within the organization. There's a community for you right there. Are you connecting your independents within your organization together?
And do your organization do
They
that?
tend not to,
Yeah.
right? So especially within divisions or within teams, yes. So if you've got a team and but across that, we all know that unfortunately a lot of organizations will work in silos, right? We'll have quite definitive structures and divisions. And so, there's not a lot of, community building across, especially if you're independent, you don't even know, who's over there.
Across
right?
the floor,
across the floor, whether they're an independent or if they're...
It sounds like a relatively easy thing to implement.
I think that's an easy starting point.
Yeah.
So just like how organizations will think about their permanent employee base as a community, and they'll do community building and initiatives and engagement, why are we not taking that easy step to create a community of all your contractors? They're all going through a similar experience. They can help each other out. They can network with each other.
And some have been there longer than others.
Exactly. And actually there's real business benefit to that because they can be more effective in the workplace, right? So I think that's an easy starting point in community. I think the other thing is platforms can add a huge amount of value here, especially in markets where the independent sector is still relatively immature. So people often there don't actually realize there is a big population around. They think they're sort of on their own. So people don't realize, there are many people like me. So when we talk to independents, when they come and meet us in the office in Singapore, we try and meet as many as we can. And they'll say, there's many, other independents here, and in your skill, and they'd love to meet up with you, So I think platforms have a real role to play in bringing their communities together and facilitating that, because I think a lot of the efforts around the facilitation. So most independents are really keen to network and build those relationships, but don't have the time to do it and don't know where to start. And sometimes are a bit unsure how to approach someone, what to say, what is the justification for it, what's the reasoning behind it. So I think in the position that we have a real opportunity to do that, and other platforms can and do and should do the same thing. But I also do think that there is a importance for the individual to actively network and build your own community tribe, right? So thinking about, am I doing enough to build a community of people like me or people in similar skills? Whether they're permanent or independent, it's okay, but building your own little personal network of people that are there to support you. The way I try and describe it is, if you lost your job or if you came out of your contract, there should be at least 5 to 10 people that you can call up that you think any given time could either have an opportunity for you or know someone or know someone. So are you building up that base of people that you can rely on to help you win that next project or solve that next problem?
On the community side, you talked about how they themselves can create communities with other people in similar situations, or how platforms like Outsized can help build those communities, and we do. What about blending the perms and the independents, right? Even if it's just for a period of time, should companies do more there to integrate all types of talent?
I think on the community side, there's little justification for excluding, an independent into anything you're doing around engaging and bringing together teams, divisions, departments, people to create those micro communities and bigger communities. It's really hard for me to think through a reason why why that wouldn't happen. Often the intention isn't there to exclude, but sometimes what happens is because of the infrastructure isn't there to acknowledge this person and who they are, and they're not in the same places or the same systems or in the same distribution lists.
Exactly,
things like they just don't get included, and no one's there thinking about it.
It's not malintended. It's just that hey, they weren't on the email list or the Teams group or whatever.
Exactly, right. And I think that, so I think an organization that's actively thinking about it, and that's why the empathy point is important. So that's why talking about this is important for organizations to understand, these individuals, so they don't make those errors in, and they do think actively about, well, what would I want if I was in those shoes? How can we help these people feel part of something while they're here, even if it's for a short period? Is it not important for them to feel part of a community? And I think all of us crave that, I think, to an extent, to feel part of something, even if it's for a moment in time. I don't think it feels nice to be sitting at a desk and not being acknowledged or included, or if there's conversations happening about, an event or an activity and you're just not even in the mindset, right? You don't feel cared for. And we've had scenarios where, and again, unintentionally, but, permanent teams who have independents working with them will organize an evening out and just won't think, to invite the other individuals. And hey, maybe they don't want to come, but what's really valuable is the invite, right? So it's opening up that community to them and allowing them to step into it. Now, if they choose not to and they want to operate as an individual contributor, that's fine. But I think opening up and in making that offer, I think is super important.
Great. So that was the kind of the community aspects of it. When it comes to the I guess the stress and financial uncertainties, is there, what can companies do about that?
Yeah, I think what organizations have is economies of scale. So if you look at some of the challenges independents face in that space, you've got everything from cash flow challenges. Well, companies can solve for that by paying them as they would do their, ideally the market should move to, if an independent does, works in the month of March, they should get paid at the end of March, right? So changing the whole model of when people get paid, how they get paid. I don't think that's an unsurmountable problem. Even when you're like, well, we don't know how many days, they might do 20 days. Well, we'll pay them based on assumption and then you can reconcile it the month after, right? So large organizations have to address the cash flow issue. So when an independent is working with you, you can solve that immediately. That takes away a massive component of stress. But then you've got other more complex challenges where organizations can, I think, facilitate or support or advocate. So things like, hey, it's difficult for an independent to financially plan. Because when you work for a company, sometimes the company's doing it for you in the background. So they'll take some of your salary and they put it in a pension pot. They'll take some of your salary and they'll buy some shares, or they take some money and they put it in some sort of savings mechanism. And it sort of happens, in the background. But when your independent company pays you, and all of that financial planning component is gone. There are ways that organizations can help support with some of that financial planning, right? Putting in place maybe some of those solutions for independence as well. So you've got the whole lack of time to financially plan. You've got issues around actually access to credit. I spoke to an independent in Australia recently, had to leave the independent market because they couldn't get a mortgage approved, right, while being an independent, even though they'd be earning a lot more than the permanent job that they took, but they needed to show pay slips. Protection, so when you leave permanent employment, you don't get access to all of that sort of insurance solutions that often companies will give you. So I think it's probably unfair to say organizations should offer all the benefits to independents, because that doesn't make sense, right? Because the whole component is just a different way of engaging and different type of talent segment. But what they can do is they can leverage their economies of scale. What I mean by that is that if you have a large proportion of your workforce being independent and you're a big organization, your ability to facilitate solutions is significantly enhanced than an individual trying to get access to protection products or access to a credit card solution or a loan solution. So there are ways that organizations can collaborate, let's say the financial services sector, to lobby and persuade and work with those providers to build solutions for their independent workers, right? And provide data that might help with underwriting and credit assessments and things like that. So I think there is work that organizations can do, but also I think this is where platforms have to play a bigger role, because I think probably it's unrealistic to assume that big organizations are going to go, hey, let me try and create a whole set of, financial solutions for, my independent workforce. So I think in the main, I think working with organizations and supporting organizations that are trying to solve for that are trying to build a world and the infrastructure that's built for an independent, right? Parallel, this parallel workforce currently isn't supported. So platforms like ours, and there's other players out there that should actively be looking at solving for those broader needs, right? Because at the moment, platforms will focus on solving the first high priority need, which is get me work, right? Find me projects. But if we want this talent economy to succeed, if we want people to see a career as an independent to be aspirational, if we want them to be successful, if we want them to continue to grow and attract more independence, and we want that market to flourish, we have to also invest in making it a fair, sustainable market that supports them beyond just projects. And I know that's something that you are working on.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think platforms like Outsized and others that have scale, we're in a very good position to work with providers to develop solutions, products and services that are tailored for this part of the market, right? So,
okay.
I mean, a shameless plug for Outsized now, maybe, but it's in terms of a community, that's something we've been doing now for a little while. Creating a community, both digital and increasingly now also kind of physical meetups, etc., where freelancers can meet up, can discuss, can kind of share experiences and problems and so on. On the financial side, we've been partnering with a number of organizations that do provide insurance products that are kind of tailored to independence, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of things that platforms can do, should do, and partly are starting to do.
Yeah. And having talked to some of the banks, insurance companies we actually work with as clients, they are actually seeing this segment in the market as a really attractive segment to serve. So I think they're starting to acknowledge, hey, there's this new consumer segment out there of independence. They're earning, really good money. So great customers, right, for us to have. And we should be servicing. At the moment, we're not creating solutions that work for them. But for them, how do I find these people at scale to make this make sense for me? So I think partnerships with platforms that have that scale, but also what I'd love to see is partnerships between, the organizations using independent talent and getting all the benefits of that, working with platforms, working with financial service institutions to create this infrastructure, because all of us will benefit from it. All of us will benefit from a really thriving independent talent marketplace. We shouldn't just be here to monetize it. We should be here to enrich it and add value to it, and help it thrive. So I think all of us have a responsibility to do so.
And ultimately, for the independent talent market to work, to be sustainable over time, it's not just about kind of matching the right skills to the relevant opportunities. People also need to kind of be, need to be taken care of in one way or another. Otherwise, people aren't going to want to become independents, right? So
yeah.
So I think that's a great point. Cool. Any last words you'd like to add in terms of, either kind of raising awareness amongst organizations, or how to practically kind of help independents?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me is investing in getting a deeper if you're an organization engaging independents, as you would invest in understanding the lives and what's going on outside of work with your teams and your permanent employees, take that time to just get a glimpse into the complexities that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So, you're not only coming in and doing the work, you're thinking about your taxation, your administration, your next project, you're thinking about building your brand, you're thinking about your cash flow, you're trying to work out your savings investment solutions, you're trying to build network. There's so many things that you're trying to manage all at the same time. You're looking at your professional development, upskilling, you're having to invest in these things. There's a lot going on there. And these people are essentially running a business. It is like running a full-on business. And so you want that individual to perform really well when they come through the door every day. And so investing behind what you see and understand it, to show, even if it's just showing that empathy, that I understand what it's like, and at least doing and making sure you're doing your bit in the bits that you can control. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks. That's been hugely valuable for me, at least. Thanks for sharing, and yeah.
Thank you.
Good to speak to you.
See you soon.
See you. Bye.